welcome today's guest speaker, Mr. Katayama Torano.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Foreign Correspondents Club of Japan. I am today's MC and first vice president of the club. So today we have a distinguished speaker guest who has a long career in politics and before that in bureaucracy. Mr. Katayama Toranosuke is the co-leader of Nippon Ishin Japan Innovation Party, which is basically a Kansai-based party, but nationally also they are trying to make breakthrough. And Mr. Katayama is originally from Okayama Prefecture. So in his career, after finishing Faculty of Law, University of Tokyo, he joined the career track of bureaucracy in Ministry of Home Affairs. And where he was in long 30 years career, he became the vice minister and had gone to the top of bureaucracy. And after that, he retired from bureaucracy and joined politics and joined LDP and he was first elected to the House of Councillors in 1989 as LDP member, and since then he has been elected 6 times, 5 times he has been elected to the upper house. And in 2010 he left LDP, and later he joined Ichiro Matsui of Osaka, who is now Osaka Mayor, and Toru Hashimoto, and launched the party that is Nippon Ishin. And since then, he is with Nippon Ishin, and he is now co-leader of the party with Mr. Matsui, and trying to keep a center policy among political parties, that not joining the opposition in all the issues, not joining the governing party in all the issues. On issue base, they cooperate sometimes with the government, and on issue base, sometimes maybe against the government. And now the party is hoping for another breakthrough in the upcoming upper house election. And Mr. Katayama will be speaking about the strategy, about the prospect of the party, and more on the political side. So, ladies and gentlemen, join me to give a warm welcome to Mr. Toranosuke Katayama. And next to Mr. Katayama is our interpreter today, Ms. Yoriko Konima. And how do you like to sitting in this case? Yeah.
最初だけ立ってますよ。あ、そう。いいですか。どうも皆さんこんにちは。
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen.
今ハクさんから大変丁寧なご紹介いただきました。片山さんでございます。
Mr. Huck, thank you very much for the very kind introduction. My name is Toranosuke Katayama.
日本維新の会で共和党代表中の仕事を授かっております。参議院議員でございます。今日は参議院選挙で絡んで特派員協議会の皆さんにお招きをいただいたというか、手が申し出だっていうのからお会いできてお話できることを大変嬉しく思っております。途中で来させていただきましたので、大変親しみを感じる。
Yes, and as was introduced, I am currently the co-leader of Nippon Ishin. I am a member of the upper house, and with the upcoming upper house election, I've been very fortunate to be invited to FCCJ here today. I'm very happy to have this opportunity to meet with you. I have visited here a number of times, and therefore I feel very closeness to the FCCJ.
今ハクさんから私の経歴についても若干のご紹介あったんですが、私は大学を出まして、自治長中、今その後自治省になるんですが、自治長に入りまして、そこに約30年間おりまして、岡山県の副知事だとか、知事大臣官房審議官だとか、消防庁次長をやりまして、木村元っていう議長をやった参議院議員岡山の方で、その方が引退するんで後でのつもりで、自民党から参議院議員に来ました。それが出たのが平成元年なんですね。だから非常に分かりやすい。私は昭和の時代は役人で、平成の時代は議員にやらせていただいて、そういう意味では平成が終わったことにね、考えを持っているわけでございます。年齢もね、非常に天皇陛下や皇后陛下に近いものです。
Yes, and as a matter of fact, Mr. Huck has already given me an introduction to my background, and so I'll be very brief here. And after graduating from university, I joined the Home Affairs Agency, which later became a ministry, but back then it was an agency. I worked there for 30 years as a bureaucrat, and I've served under many positions, including vice minister, as well as the head of the fire division, etc. And then, as a matter of fact, a politician under the name of Moto Kimura, who was originally from Okayama, my constituency, decided to retire, and I was asked to replace him. And I ran in the election under the LDP ticket in 1989, the first year of Heisei. So it's very easy for you to understand. During the Showa period, I was a bureaucrat. During the Heisei period, I had been serving as a member of parliament. And now the Heisei period has ended, and have special emotions about that. Age-wise, I'm close to the Emperor and Empress Emeritus.
今から12年前の平成19年の2007年ですかね、移動選挙で自民党は大敗するわけです。その時の総裁総理が安倍さんで、私が自民党の参議院の幹長だったんです。で、選挙の指揮を取ったんですが、経済連携その他の問題があって、自民党大敗するんですね。で、安倍さんの体がおかしくなる、私は落ちる。当時、私、竹下派という大きいグループにいたんですが、竹下の議員は中国が全滅しました。私も落ちたんです。その3年後に私、復活することになるんですが、その時定年制に引っかかりましてね、非常に年がいってるもんですから、それで面倒なもんですから、そういうことを言っちゃいかんのですが、立ち上がれ日本というのに入りましてね、平沼さんや岩佐野さんが当時おられて、そういう式で入って、その後ずっとこの立ち上がれが石原さんなんか入ってきて、維新と合併して維新に行って、それから維新系統にずっとおるわけです。特に、平成27年だったんですかね、大阪都構想の住民投票で負けるんですね。で、橋本さんが負けたら引退すると、こういうことで引退表明されて、引退するんだから代わりにちょっとね、お前やってくれんかと、こういう話で大阪維新の会にまた入りましてね、それで大阪維新の会が日本維新の会になって、橋本さんは引退したままで今日こういうことになってございまして、共同代表というのは松井さんが代表なんですけれども、大阪の地位で今度は市長になったもんですからね。
大丈夫です。そこの文章は
いいですか。
そこの文章だけはらせていただければ大丈夫です。
なんかややこしいこと言ってるんで、それでは取ったら、
すいません。はい。Yes, and so as a matter of fact, in 2007, that was the year in which the LDP was defeated overwhelmingly, which was led by President Abe, the LDP, and I was serving as the Secretary General of the Upper House, and so I was leading an election, but the LDP lost, and Mr. Abe fell ill, so I was a member of the Takeshita faction, the largest faction, and in that election, all the local, the parliamentarians of the LDP lost under this Takeshita faction in their local constituencies, and I also lost in that election. 3 years later, I made a comeback, and I was able to become a member of parliament once again. But under the LDP, there's a retirement age system, and because of my age, I was to retire, and it was very complicated, so I decided to leave the LDP and join the Sunrise Party of Japan, where Mr. Hiranuma Yosano were members. Later, Mr. Ishihara also joined, but I worked and I served under the Sunrise Party, and then after it was merged with Ishin, and so I joined Ishin, and ever since I've been under the Ishin Party. And in 2015, there was a referendum for questioning the residents about the Osaka Metropolis plan, and our group lost, and therefore Hashimoto-san decided to step down, and I was to replace him, and Osaka Ishin became Nippon Ishin later, and because Mr. Matsui is now the mayor of Osaka, I am serving as the co-leader of the party now.
代表が松井一郎さんなんだけれども、前の地位で今市長ですよね。市長の方に変わったんですけど、それで市長なんですが国会議員じゃないんですね。それで国会でいろんなことをやる国政活動についてはその代わりをやるっていうのか、そういうことの代表を私が仰せつかっておりまして、共同代表ということ、それから国会議員の代表と、こういうことで国会活動を中心にですね、いろんなことをやっておりますが、今度の選挙なんか両方でやらなきゃいけませんがね、松井さんが先頭を立って、私はそれを補う方っていうのはやっております。
And currently, Mr. Ichiro Matsui, he is the leader, but he used to be the governor of Osaka and now is the mayor, and therefore he is not a member of parliament. And given this fact, I am the co-leader of the party as a member of parliament, and mainly carrying out activities at the national political level. And therefore, I am positioned as co-leader and a member of parliament of the party, looking into diet affairs. And for this election, Mr. Matsui is leading the election, and I'm taking a supportive role.
それは維新のいろんなことをこれからご説明しますが、国会における維新というのはね、与党か野党かとよく言われるんですが、もちろん連立に入ってませんから野党なんです。我々の基本的な国会における立場は是々非々で、いいことは政府与党に賛成する、悪いことは反対する。反対した場合にはですね、提案をすると。我々の考え方に基づく提案をして、それで与党と修正協議をして、できればその何割かを入れてもらって合意形成をしていくと。審議協議はしないと。こういうのが我々の基本的な姿勢です。
And let me explain about my party, Nippon Ishin, to a certain extent. People often ask us whether we are ruling or opposition party. But as a matter of fact, in terms of the definition, we are in the opposition camp because we are not a member of the coalition. But still, our standing within the Diet is such that if there are things that we can agree with the ruling coalition, we would support them. And if we cannot agree, we will oppose. So it really depends on issue by issue. And if we were to oppose, then we would make sure that we come up with a counter proposal and try to engage in deliberations with the ruling coalition so that amendments can be made and have, to a certain extent, a certain percentage of our proposal reflected in the bill. So this is how we try to proceed through and build consensus through deliberation.
自民党や公明党の与党と連立することはありませんし、それから合併合同することもありません。我々は既得権益、しがらみとは無縁ということでございましてね、そこが一番違う点でございますから、その点ははっきり申し上げておきたいと思います。
Yes, but I would like to say here clearly and that we have no intention of joining the LDP Komeito coalition, nor do we have any intention of being merged with the ruling bloc, and because we are different from the ruling bloc in terms of they having vested interests, certain connections, but in our case, we are isolated from any such interests.
今回の改選議席は6議席です。改選する議席は 6でございましてね、できればそれを倍増したいというのが我々の望みで、大阪、兵庫等関西以外でも当選者を出したいと。比例はまあ全国一本でやるわけですけれども、首都圏を中心にできれば当選者を出したい。倍増を目標に頑張っております。
Now, for this election, there are 6 seats which are being contested within our party, and our target is to double the seats from 6 to 12. And so our focus will be on Osaka, Hyogo, the Kansai area, but other than that, we are aiming, especially under the proportional representation, because this is a nationwide ticket or election, we want to have winners in the Tokyo metropolitan area as well, so that we could double our seats.
特に地域政党的なものがあるんですね。昔の大阪維新の会みたいな、そういう地域政党と連携を取って、地方から国を変えていく。地方のそういう地域政党と連携をして、ネットワークを組んで国を変えていくと。こういうことを特にこの選挙から目指しております。
And especially, our focus is on collaborating with parties which are based in local regions, like the Osaka Ishin no Kai. And so through such partnerships, we want to change Japan from local regions, and we want to build a network so that we can bring about change in the nation. And this is what we've started with this current election.
今回の参議院選挙における主な政策を申し上げますと、一つは我が党が本家である。本領である身を切る改革を今もやっておりますが、これを続行すると、これを国会内で主張し続けて、他党もやってもらうようにすると。なかなか他党はやりませんけれどもね。で、一つは議員の報酬を2割自分から供出しております。それを災害の自治体なんかに寄付するようなことをやっております。2割を供出。これ東日本大震災の時に国会議員全員、国家公務員全員も2割それを給料を災害復旧のために出したんですが、それは2年でやめちゃった。国民の方は特別の税金をいまだに払い続けてるんです。半分ぐらいやめましたけれども、国会議員と国家公務員だけが2年でやめるっていうのはおかしいんで、我々はずっと続けてる。それから同じことを言いますと、月に100万文通費っていうのを国会議員もらってるんですが、これの使途を公開する。領収書いらないんです。領収書が。だからそれじゃ国民の皆さん分かりませんね、使途を公開する。企業団体献金を受け取らない。それから自分の党の支部に寄付をしたら税金が控除されるんですけれども、それもやらない。こういうことの身を切る改革を実行しております。他の党に言いますけれども、賛成してくれても実行するところはない。これは引き続き我々がやっていきたいと考えております。
And let me go on to talking about the major issues that we are appealing for during this election, the Apa's election. First of all, we are the party which has from the very beginning been advocating for painful reform, and we will continue to do so into the future. Other parties are not doing this. To be more specific, for example, though other parties say they will, they are not doing this, but in our case, 20% of the salaries that the members of parliament are receiving are donated for specific purposes, such as donating to the prefectures which were hit by the Great East Japan earthquake. And this originally was done both by the members of parliament as well as bureaucrats immediately after the earthquake hit, but it was stopped after 2 years. Yet the people are paying taxes to assist these prefectures which have been affected. So what's the logic of the members of parliament Parliament and bureaucrats not having to pay anymore after 2 years, and the taxpayers having to continue to pay. We cannot accept this, and therefore we're continuing to donate 20% of our salary at our party amongst the members of Parliament. And secondly, there is what is called the expenses for correspondence, transportation, accommodation, which the DART members are receiving every month, totaling some 1 million yen. And once they receive this money, they don't have to submit any receipts to explain how the money was used. But so the taxpayers cannot see how the money is being spent, and we cannot accept this, and therefore we demand that the spending be disclosed and the purpose of spending be disclosed. And also, we are not accepting any donations from businesses or organizations. We have a ban on receiving donations, and also there is this system where members of Parliament, if they donate to branches of the party, they can receive tax credit. But we are not doing this. And so these are the types of painful reforms that we at Nippon Ishi are implementing. And though other parties do say that they favor such thinking, they do not act on it.
次に消費税増税には、一貫した反対しておりますけれども、今回の 8% から 10% の 2% アップにも反対です。その財源は身を切る改革と国会議員や国家公務員の、あるいは徹底した無駄を省く行政改革によって財源を出すべきだ。現に大阪ではそれをやって実行しまして、成功しましたから、住民の皆さんが非常にそれを評価している。それを国でもやるべきだということで反対であります。
And the next policy issue that we are asserting is we are opposed to the consumption tax hike. We have consistently been opposed to the tax hike. And well, this time in October, the tax rate will be increased from 8 to 10%. But we are opposed to this, and we are saying that the revenue can be sourced from other sources, such as the bold reform to be implemented by members of Parliament or bureaucrats, or eliminating waste through administrative reform. So we have been doing this in Osaka, and we have succeeded, and the residents have highly recognized this result, and therefore we think that also at the national government level, this can be done.
それから年金に絡んでですね、老後に2000万必要だという、老後2000万円問題というのが非常に問題になっておりますけれども、これはですね、政府が特に麻生大臣がですね、諮問して高齢社会における資産形成をどうやるか、自助をどうやるかという、そういうことの諮問に答えたものですね。でそれを受け取らないということがどういう内容であれ、非常にこれは問題だと思いますしね。一方ではこれが出たからって言って急に年金がおかしくなったという大騒ぎをする野党にも賛成できないわけでありまして、年金は老後の柱ですからね、与野党が冷静に専門家を入れて話し合うべきだと、こういう立場であります。
And another issue is the pension scheme. And well, then there is this report which says that after retirement, people should have at hand some 20 million yen. And this has developed into a political issue here in Japan, especially under Finance Minister Taro Aso. He has made a request to the experts, the council, to come up with advice on how people after retirement can build their assets and assist themselves. The fact that the government is not accepting the report, no matter what the content may be, after asking for advice is a problem in itself. Meanwhile, just because this report is out, the opposition is trying to make the case where there is a major problem with the pension system. And this also is something that is not acceptable. And I think that instead, because the pension system is something that the people after retirement rely heavily on, experts and others should come together to calmly talk about the issue.
これだけ寿命が伸びて高齢者が増えておれば、今の年金の報酬は付加方式というんですね、ご承知のように。現役の皆さんの保険料でお年寄りの方にそれを給付するっていうんでしょうか。これは相当前の時代のね、お年寄りの比率が少なくて寿命が短かった時代の話で、 これだけ少子高齢化になって現役が少なくてお年が多いようなことになって持つわけがない。だからいずれ時期を見てですね、今の付加方式を現役の皆さんのお金をお年寄りが分かるんじゃなくて、自分のお金を積み立てて、それを基礎にですね、将来の年金を作るという積み立て方式に移行する必要があると。これはしか大変難しい問題がいろいろあるわけでありましてね、それを今から十分検討して積み立て方式に移行するべきだというのが我が維新の考えであります。
Meanwhile, when you look at Japan today, because people are living longer, the current scheme that we have is called pay as you go. This is one in which the active generation pays contributions and the money is spent to support the current elderly population. But this system originates from a long time ago when there were fewer older persons and life expectancy was much shorter. Whereas today the birth rate, the fertility rate is low, there is a large older population, and given this, this system is no longer sustainable, and we have to rethink this pay-as-you-go scheme that already exists, and instead come up with a system of accumulation where the young people pay into the pension system. They can accumulate the money that they pay into the system for their own after retirement age. And but there are a number of difficulties in trying to make this transition, and therefore it's time for us to start considering what can be done in order to make this transition.
憲法改正につきましてはですね、私どもも国会で大いに議論すべきだと。国会でほとんど議論が行われない憲法審査会で、したがって国民の関心も高まらないし、認識も含まらないんですね。国会で開かれた議論を徹底的にやるべきだと、こういうふうに思っておりますしね、今の憲法の一番の問題は、国民が一度も参画したことがないんですよ。国民の知らないところで決まってきた。ぜひね、最終的な決定権者は国民ですから、国民投票にかけるべきです、今の憲法。今の憲法かけてない。国会の審議があったということにはなっておりますけれどもね、まあこの審議も不徹底ですよね。そういう意味で憲法についてはまず大いに議論すべきだと。我々は憲法については3つの提案をしております、憲法改正に。一つは教育の無償化、もう一つは地方分権当事機構の改革、もう一つは憲法裁判所の設置です。これについてはまたご質問があれば詳しくお話しします。
And in regards to the constitutional revision, we believe as a party that there should be thorough debate on this issue in the Diet. So far this has not been debated almost at all in the Diet, and as a result we see that the people showed little interest in the constitutional revision, and they have little awareness, recognition of what the issue is all about. And therefore I think that it is time for us to have an open discussion in the Diet and try to work out things here. Because the problem with the current constitution is that it has never been put to the people to decide. In other words, it has been put together without the people knowing about it. And therefore I think that even with the current constitution, a referendum should be held to see whether the people approve. And also I think that the Diet needs to deliberate this and try to look into what needs to be done, because even though on the record it says that the current constitution was deliberated in Diet, I don't think it has been fully deliberated. And therefore I think that when it comes to the constitution, we should have a full debate and reflect the views of the people. Now, in regards to the constitution, our party is making 3 proposals. One is to make education free, and the second is to carry out devolution and reform the governance system, and thirdly, to establish a constitutional court. If you should have any questions about this, I'd be more than happy to take them and explain more details about these proposals. Thank you. So the rest will be Q&A. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Katayama. Now floor is open, and if you have a question, please raise your hand, and when you are identified, come here at the front and identify yourself before asking a question. Yes, Christoph.
Süddeutsche Zeitung, Neidhardt. The biggest headline your party made in the last few months was Murayama with his statement on the Kuril Islands. Now, you personally have long history with association with people who make this kind of gaffe. Mr. Aso, then you joined Mr. Ishihara's party, who was famous for such gaffes. Now, some people say these people are just maybe not competent enough, maybe this is a problem of behavior or intelligence. Some people say this is tactic because you actually reach a good part of your voters with these gaffes and get their sympathies. Can you explain why so many Japanese people tend to say inappropriate things?
はい、いいんですか。まあ難しい質問ですけどね。確かに注目を浴びたい、受け狙いっていうんですよね。受けたい、笑わせたい。特に麻生さんは全市のね、全国の回答をやりましたんで、そういうのがちょっとありますね。全市の人には受けを狙う、みんなに喜ばれたい、面白がられたい。まあ石原さんというのは非常に個性の豊かな人で、自分の考えを貫くようなところがあるんで、まあこれもちょっと遠慮はしない部分がはみてるんじゃないでしょうかね。でどっちも悪気はないんですよ。念のために言うと、悪気はないから困る事件もあるけど。
Well, yes, and that is a very difficult question. It is true that these people who make gaffes are trying to attract attention to a certain extent and trying to get people to laugh. Mr. Aso is a typical example. He used to be the national president of JCI, Japan Chamber of International, Junior Chamber International. And so he does have this tendency to try to get people to react, entertain them through such comments that he makes. Mr. Ishihara also was a person of character. He had a unique character, and he was not reluctant to speak his own mind, and so that was partly the reason why he made such comments. But I must remind you that neither of these two have any bad intentions, but having no bad intentions makes it even worse, more complicated maybe.
Very happy?
Yes, じゃあフォローアップ続けてちょっと質問させてください。
You didn't mention Mr. Murayama, who has and who kept you Maruyama. Yeah, sorry, Maruyama. Yes, and Hotaka Maruyama, who kept you busy recently. Now, first of all, you threw him out of the party, but he is still in a diet. Why is that? And then you went to the Russian embassy to apologize for him. What was the Russians' reaction, please?
すみません、丸山君のことを言わなくて、丸山君は日本維新の会に所属した若い議員なんですよね。でね、お酒が好きなんですよ。で飲みすぎだったらやっぱりね、人格がおかしくなる。それがちょうど出たんだろうと思いますけれどもね、そのいろんな言動はやっぱり国会議員としては言語道断ですよ。だから我が党はすぐに除名したんです。ただ国会議員はですね、もう一定の法律に書いたこと以外では辞めさせられないんです。本人が辞めると言わなきゃ。だからいろんな勧告をやったんですけれども、衆議院から本人が辞めないもんだからね、どうしようもないんです。それと私は確かにロシア大使館にね、謝りに行ったんじゃないです。釈明に行ったんです。事情を話しに。 また大使の方は日本に長い方なんですよね。最初は難しいあれでしたけどね、私柔道やるもんですから、プーチンさんとね柔道の話や秋田県をね差し上げたいろいろとそういう話をしたら非常に打っときましてね、大変相互理解が進んだと思いますが、やっぱり迷惑をかけたことは変わりないんで、ロシアにもまあ釈明に言ったことを謝るんじゃなくて、そういうことの事情を説明に行ったんですけどね、まあいろんな意見があることはもう
Yes, and well, about Maruyama, Hodaka Maruyama, yes, he was a young parliamentarian belonging to Nippon Ishin back then, and he has this tendency of drinking too much. He is very fond of alcohol, and when he drinks too much, he tends to misbehave and lose his character, and I think that was what happened. But as a member of parliament, this is totally unacceptable, and therefore our party expelled him. But when it comes to this qualification of being a member of parliament, under the law, unless you violate the law, it is not possible for the Diet to dismiss him as a member of parliament. He has to resign on his own will. And he has not done so far. And that is the reason why he remains in Parliament as a member of the lower house. And so that is what happened. And also, in regards to the Russian embassy, yes, it is true that I did go to the embassy to meet the ambassador, but it was not to apologize, but instead to explain what had happened. And I met with the ambassador. He has been in Japan for a long period of time. At first, there were some difficulties in trying to communicate what we had to. But yes, I also did judo. And I talked about President Putin being a judoist. And also Japan giving Akita Inu and the Akita dog as a gift to Russia. And once we started to talk about such things, we came to understand each other. I think we were able to deepen our mutual understanding. But of course, we did cause inconvenience to the Russian government, and that is the reason why I went to the embassy to explain. Not I apologize, but of course I understand that there are different views as to the reason why I went to the embassy.
Yes. Okay. Next question. Yeah.
Situation freelancer from Germany. Two questions. One is about the position of your party to the sanction of economic sanction against South Korea. The other question is about your party's position about labor immigrants. The LDP and the government now invited 345,000 foreign laborers to come to Japan. What is your party's position to this?
Hey. よろしいですか。最初の質問は韓国への経済制裁と言われたけれども、あれは経済制裁じゃないんですね。やっぱり安全保障に絡んで、その物資がですね、どう使われたかの管理がどうも韓国は不十分で、約束に反したような事例があるんで、それをもう全くノーチェックで渡すんじゃなくて、これから一つ一つチェックする、こういうことのようなんで、我々は政府の考え方に賛成です。ただ言い方がですね、いかにもその報復制裁のような感じを世界に与えているとすれば、これは適当でないと思います。
Now, in regards to your first question, in your question you mentioned about economic sanctions, but actually we do not regard it as sanctions. This is related to national security, and it is not clear how these exports from Japan are being used. And so the inspection is not sufficient. And we believe that there have been some breaches of promises that have been made. So I think that there should be an inspection before these products are delivered. And that is what is being asked for. And this is the thinking of the Japanese government. And therefore we support the Japanese government's position on this. Some people regard this as retaliation, economic sanctions, but we don't think that that is an appropriate way of expressing.
外国人材を入れる問題もですね、基本的に政府の方針に賛成で、我々法案を通すときに修正協議をしましてね、例えば大都市圏に偏らないようにするとか、見直しを3年でなくて2年でやるとか、あるいは単に労働力として受け入れるんじゃなくて、そのコミュニティのメンバーとして受け入れるようなことを考えるとか、そういう修正をですね、与党とやりました。今の日本の状況なら、一定の制約のもとに外国人材を受け入れるのはやむを得ないと、我が党は考えています。
Now, in regards to your second question about foreign labor, yes, we do support the policy of the government, and though we have gone through some deliberations to amend the original bill. So we have tried to make sure that foreign labor does not concentrate in the big cities. And also we have worked and succeeded in revising the bill so that it reads not every 3 years, but 2 years a review will be made. And also we should not regard foreign workers as just mere labor force, but instead as a member of the community. So this is how these people should be accepted into Japan. We have worked with the ruling coalition so as to make such amendments. And based on this, we believe that given the current situation in Japan, we should be accepting these labor force, foreign workers, under these specific conditions.
Okay, any other question now from the floor? So maybe in between I ask one or two questions related to Korean Peninsula. What's your party's position concerning this latest dispute with South Korea?
最近のどういうお考えでしょうか。
いいでしょうか。最近の韓国との関係は本当に憂慮すべきあれですね。一つ間違うとどんどんそれが大きくなるようなね、そういう感じを持っておりますが、隣の国ですし長い歴史があるし、お互いにそれ相手の国にいろいろお世話になってる歴史的な長いそういう歴史があるんで、私はやっぱり何らかのきっかけでもっと相互理解が深まるような努力をすべきだとこう思いますがね。じゃあこれだけ国民感情が沸騰してくるとなかなかすぐには難しいかもしれませんね。政府の外交努力あるいはこの多次元の交流が行われておりますから何百万人の人が韓国から来て日本からも行ってるわけでそういうその市民間の交流をねうまく利用するって言ったらおかしいですが活用すると考えるべきではないかと思っております。日本維新の会としてこの問題について党として議論したことはまだありません。選挙に入りましたから。だから必要ならまた選挙があって党として十分議論したいと思っています。
Yes, in regards to the Korean situation, South Korea, it is a concern, and so if a mistake is made, it could develop into a major problem. So I do think that it is a major issue, that is the impression that I get. But South Korea has been our neighbor for a long period of time. We have a long history of coexisting with each other, and we have been reliant on each other for a long time. And therefore I'm hoping that through certain opportunities, both countries can deepen their mutual understanding, and efforts should be made towards that end. Given the fact that the public sentiment has soured to this extent, it might be difficult to do so, but through different channels, be it the diplomatic channel or multiple dimensions such as the grassroots citizens exchanging. There are some millions of people going to and from Japan and South Korea. So at the grassroots level, through those exchanges, I'm hoping that we can leverage such exchanges so as to better the relationship. As for Nippon Ishin Party, because we went straight into the election, we have not had time to debate this issue, but if necessary, we will do so.
Okay, so Albert and then Christoph.
Hello, I'm Abasigo, freelance. So again, on the issue with South Korea, so saying that this current export controls is independent of the dispute on wartime labor, if South Korea does go ahead and sell the assets it has confiscated, do you think Japan should retaliate, again, separate from this export control?
いや、今選挙中でもありましてね、それからそういうことについての党としてのしっかりした議論をしておりませんので、いずれにせよしたいと思いますね。徴用工の問題についてはもう言い分ありますね。で、私は日本人ですから、日本政府の言い分の方をいいと思ってるんですよ。しかし党として態度を決めたことはありませんが、みんな強い関心を持っていると思いますので、大いに議論してまいりたい選挙後と思っております。私個人は政府の考え方を支持しています。
Yes, well, we are in the midst of the election, and therefore we have not had time within the party to deliberate this as a party issue. But when it comes to this issue of the wartime labor, being a Japanese personally, I would side with the Japanese government perspective. But as a party, I cannot say anything because we have not had time to deliberate this as a party. Though I'm sure that members of my party are very much interested in this issue, and therefore after the election, we hope to have an opportunity to discuss.
Okay, Christoph and then Kurt.
I have a more personal question, if I may. I understand you're not running now, and 3 years ago you were elected with a good result. But in 2007 or 10, I don't remember, you left the LDP for the main reason that you could not run anymore because you were above 70, because the LDP introduced the age limit of 70 years. Now the Japanese parliament has too many old men, not enough young people, and not enough women. How do you justify that you're still in parliament?
前回はですね、選挙区で出る予定だった、もともと出てきたんですが、落ちましたんでね、その次がおるんですよね。だからその人に迷惑になるから比例で出ることになる。比例で出ることになったら年齢制限があるんですよ。73とか5とか当時あったんですね。でそういう議論で中曽根さんや宮沢さん中総理大臣経験者もいろいろ問題があったんですがね。それでその特例事項がもちろんあって特例にするっていう話だったんですが、あれが特例なんだ、俺もしろっていう人が増えるんですね、このカナダ。それで中で大議論があってね、結論が出ないんですよ。谷垣時代なんですよ。野党でしたから、自民党。谷垣時代で、それではすぐ議員になるのがならないというわけで、立ち上がりに自民党が分派した平沼さんやよそのさんが聞いたもんですからそっちに出たんで定年制あってもいいと思うんですけどね、今もう日本の人口は高齢化してね、高齢者が 75歳以上が1800万おるんですよ。1790万人、75以上ですよ。そういう時代にね、今80以上は国会でね3人しかいないんですよ。私を入れてですよ。3人目は自民党の幹事長ですよね、二階さんで。2人目が前の衆議院議長ですよ。でそういうことなんで、私はねこれだけ高齢者が多かったらもう少しおってもいいと思うんです。ところが今回は70代の、ね、人がいっぱい出てますよ、自民党は。選挙やってる今。だからそういう意味ではだんだん治ってくるんじゃないでしょうかね。でやっぱり老壮青のバランスが取れた議員構成がですね、国民のためにもいいと私は思ってます。
Well, yes, just first of all to explain about what happened in my case, well, I was originally planning to run in the constituency, but then after it was decided that I should run under the proportional representation, and under the proportional representation there was this age limit, or was it 73 or 75? Anyway, my age became a problem, and there were other people like Nakasone, Miyazawa, former prime ministers, who also faced this problem, and there was this discussion of making exceptions, and it became a big issue, and therefore, this was the time when Mr. Tanigaki was the LDP president, the LDP was the opposition, and therefore I decided to leave the LDP and join the Sunrise Party, which was a breakout from the LDP, together with Hirano Yosano-san and others. Now, I do think that it is acceptable, good to have a retirement age system, but given the fact that we are seeing aging of the society overall in Japan, if you look at the people above 75, it's 18 million, 17.5 million to be more specific. And given this large amount of older generation, it could be that we have good representation of the older persons. Currently, there are only 3 members of parliament who are in the 80s, including myself, Mr. Nikai, the LDP Secretary General, the former House Speaker are the 3, and I personally think that it could be that there be more older persons representation in the Diet. And this time in the election, there are quite a few candidates in their 70s, but I think eventually there will be a balance amongst the different age groups of the older, less older, and younger generation.
So he also mentioned about women.
女性はどうですか。女性の議員が少なすぎるという点で。
そうですね、女性は少ないですね。今度はまあかなりね、女性の方が出てるんですが、やっぱ手を挙げる人がだんだん増えてきておりますけれども、男性ほどではないですね。私の感じでは、日本維新の会だと見ますと。
Well, yes, and about the female representation in the Diet, this time there are more women candidates running in the election, and so I do see that there are more women who are wanting to become a parliamentarian, but not as many as men. Looking at Nippon Ishi, I get the impression that there aren't that many women as men who want to become members of parliament.
Okay, Kurt is here.
My name is Kurt Sieber. I'm an associate member. Thank you very much for having come to the FCCJ for today's presentation. By the way, I'm also over 80, so there's nothing wrong being over 80. My question to you is in connection with the shrinking of the population in Japan, which I consider to be the major problem which this country is facing. Last year, Japanese population reduced. Okay, can I continue? Went down by 450,000, but in another 5 years from now, the annual reduction will get close to 900,000, and of course the graying, the aging of the population is actually hiding the fact that the younger people are not following up, and of course the major problem in that respect is the low, not only the low birth rate, but the number of babies born, because there are also much less women able to bear new babies. So new record low 918,000 in 2018. So what is Ishinkai's policy to work counter to this very dangerous and frightening development? Thank you so much.
言われる通りなんで、人口減少が一番その国にとっては問題ですね。日本の人口はずっと明治以降増えてきてね、それが日本の力勢いだったんですが、このもう十何年間ずっと減ってまして、大体今40万以上減ってますね。それがもっとこれから加速していくんでしょうし、子供も大体ですね、220、30万生まれたのが、今は94万とか93万なんですよね。でね、東京は若い人が多いんですが、私は岡山県普通の県なんですけど、中ぐらいの県なんですけども、若い人いないんですよ。特に田舎に行くと。まず人間がいない。で、いたなと思うとお年寄りです。車は結構あるんですよ。でね、もう地方は崩壊しつつありますよ。若い人はもう東京まで行く。あるいは大阪や名古屋に。で、東京に来るとね、出生率がこれ 1.1 なんですよね。日本全体が 1.42 とか43とかいう時に、東京だけ 1.12 なんで、まあ子供の環境じゃないですよね。だから東京に若い人が集まって、で子供を産まないもんですから、人口はどんどん減っていくんですよ。だからそういう意味では、東京、首都圏一極集中、だじゃないかんのですけど、だできないんですね。大学を制限するとかなんとか言っても、なかなかそれは簡単にいかない。でもう人口が減るっていうことは守りになるわけですから、国全体が。これはもうですね、日本今までやってきたことがないんですよ。だからこれをどうやって打破するか、今政府がやってる地方創生なんか、結果としては金をばらまいてるだけなんでね。これは大きな知恵がいると思います。そこまで一応。
Well, yes, as you mentioned, this decline in population is a major challenge for Japan. I think it's the biggest problem that we face. Ever since the Meiji period, we have been seeing an increase in the Japanese population, and this was a source of power, momentum for Japan. But over the past 10 plus years, we've been seeing a decline of more than 400,000 per annum, and I think the decline is accelerating. Meanwhile, in the past, there used to be some 2.2 or even more million babies being born every year, but currently it's 940,000, 930,000 per year. And I think that well, at least in Tokyo, there are a lot of young people. But if you go to places like Okayama, my constituency, which is a middle-sized, middle-ranking prefecture in Japan, there are few young people, especially in the rural areas. You rarely see any young people. To begin with, there aren't that many people. And if you find someone, it's bound to be an older person rather than a young person. So, while there are a large number of cars, we have to bring about a breakthrough. Young people are concentrated in Tokyo and Osaka, Nagoya, places like this. But in Tokyo, if you look at the birth rate, the fertility rate is 1.12, whereas the average is 1.42 or 43. Meaning that Tokyo is not an environment where the women want to have children and raise children. And as a result, we see the population decline. We have to bring about a breakthrough in trying to resolve this over-concentration in Tokyo. But though there are measures being discussed, for example, limiting the number of universities in Tokyo, etc., is not easy to implement. And once the population declines, the country becomes more defensive. And this is unprecedented in our country. We talk about trying to revive the local economies, local regions, but it turns out to be they're just giving money out to these regions and nothing is really happening.
そこでまず1極じゃなくて2極にするっていうのが大阪都構想なんですよ。東京と同じようなものをもう一つ西に作って分けると。横綱が1人よりは2人の方がいいっていう。そこでまず二間レグにして一眼レグ。その後他局分散にしていくと。で一番なんでそれだけ東京に人が集まるかっていうとね、ものが全部東京で決まるんですよ。政治や経済だけでなくて、スポーツだって文化だって社会的ないろんなことだって全部東京で決まる。ものが決まるところに人が金や物やですよ、情報が集まるんですよ。だからより膨れていくんです。だから東京で全部決めないようにする。大阪で決まる、札幌で決まる、福岡で決まる、そういうのを分けていく。それをもっと分けていくっていうのが同州制なんですよね、結局。全部東京で決まる意思決定機能を分散していくと。それをブロックごとに一つのもう意思決定ができるようにすると。連邦国家っていうのか、その同州国家っていうのか、そういうことに究極にしていこうっていうのが、その我々が言う大きい改革なんです。地方分権。地方にも今県やなのままで権限を渡しても限度がある。で、それをもっと大きな独立したようなね、例えば九州、北海道ってオランダやベルギーと同じぐらいなんですよ。で、そういうところが意思決定もできるような、そういう国にした方が国民のためではないか、バランスが取れるんではないかっていうのが我々の考えです。
And to further elaborate on this, instead of having just Tokyo be the center where everything is concentrated, we want to have a dual polar system where, and this is what the Osaka Metropolis Plan is all about. We want to split between Tokyo and Osaka in the west. It's having like two yokozunas instead of one, and instead of a single lens reflector, having a double lens reflector. And eventually we want to increase the number to even more than two. Because it's not just political, economic decisions, but culture, sports, societal issues are all determined in Tokyo. And because Tokyo is the center of all decision-making, people, money, information, and all things are attracted to Tokyo, and Tokyo tends to balloon. But we think that instead we should have other places like Osaka, Sapporo, Fukuoka split the decision-making and eventually realize what we call the Doshu-sei, which is a federal-like system, and to delegate the authority to make decisions in different blocks of the nation. This is what we ultimately want to see when we talk about the major reform of devolution. And we want to have this authority delegated in such a way. And if we just rely on the current prefectural system, there will be a limit to delegating authority. Instead, we want to have more independent places, blocks like Kyushu, Hokkaido. There's the size of the Netherlands or Belgium. So let them make the decisions. And we think that this will benefit the people and will be a better balance.
Mr. Katayama, I agree to take one more question.
It's not the employment system in Japan one reason for the low birth rate. I think companies doesn't like women with don't like women with to get pregnant. They get and also companies don't like men who take personal leave. It's written in the law, but it's not practiced. So it makes difficult for women to get pregnant.
先生。
いや、いいですか。いや、今ご指摘のことは昔は確かにそうだったと思う。今はね、やっぱり変わってきましたよ。昔はご指摘のようなことで大変ね、休暇も取りにくいし、妊娠するのは具合が悪いなというような感じがありましたけどもね。今はだいぶ変わってきたんだけれども、それは変わりきってるかどうかわかりませんね。それ今男の人もですね、一生懸命女の人を手伝うように、平等に家事をやるようにね、家事育児を平等にやるような、そういう知事さんのなんとか連盟までできたぐらいですから、空気はだいぶ変わってきておりますが、まだ変わりきってはないかもしれません。もう少し変えた方がいいかもしれませんね。
Yes, what you've described, it was true in the past, but I think recently things are starting to change. And so I think that, yes, in the past, men were reluctant to take leave, and women were reluctant or had resistance of becoming pregnant, but things have changed these days. But maybe it hasn't fully changed yet. And so I think that these days we see men trying to help their wives, and raising children, splitting the house chores between themselves, and trying to look after the children together. And there are even governors who have formed this group to realize such gender equality. And therefore, I think the mood is starting to change.
And maybe a very short question, the gentleman over there.
あちらの方、短い質問お願いします。
私の本間と申します。2つお尋ねし、憲法に改正について2つお尋ねしたいと思います。昨日だったと思いますが、NHK のテレビで世論調査ですね、改正に賛成というのが 43% だったやつですか。で、改正に反対が38だと思いましたけど、その中で第9条に関しては反対の方が上回るですね。それで維新の会は憲法9条についてはどういうスタンスでおられるのか、それが一つ。もう一つ、先ほど片山代表が言われました憲法裁判所の設置がなぜ必要なのか、最高裁では十分でないのか、それをちょっとお尋ねしたいと思います。はい。
すみません、申し訳ない。Homa, an associate member, I have two questions in regards to the Constitution. I believe it was yesterday on NHK where they introduced the results of a survey they conducted, whereas 43% of the respondents said that they support the revision of the Constitution, 38% said they were opposed. But when it comes to Article 9, there were more who opposed to amending the Constitution rather than those who support. So what is Nippon Ishin's position vis-a-vis Article 9 amendment revision? And secondly is in regards to your proposal to set up a constitutional court. Is the current Supreme Court not sufficient?
我々の考えはですね、今当面こう改正した方が国民のためになると、国民も希望しているものを改正しようと、そこで議論して3つ選んだのが今の教育の無償化と中央文献と憲法裁判所なんですね。で、その2問目から先に言いますと、憲法裁判所はね、何でいるかというと、今の最高裁は当事行為、政治的なものすごく政治色が濃い行為について判断しないんですよ。逃げるんですよ。それはその司法権が及ばないと、こういうことに逃げるもんですからね、あやふやになるんですよ。で、その一つがですね、集団的自衛権を、これ難しく問題になっておりますが、集団的自衛権をどうするかという時にですね、結局は裁判所がきちっと判断しないもんですから、あれだけの大議論をして法律ができるんですね。で、よその国には憲法裁判所があって、ある法律を出す時にそれが憲法違反かどうかそこが判断してくれるんですよ。それで決まっちゃうんですよね。だから今の日本の最高裁ではなかなか決まらないんで、最高裁の中に憲法部を作ってもらってもいいんですけどね、そういうことにした方が国民的なエネルギーがロスしないんじゃないかと こういうことなんです。それから9条についてはね、日本維新の会議論してないんですよ。ただ安倍さんがあれだけね、9条にご就寝で、またトランプさんがですよ、日米の安保条約は不平等だと、こういうことをやるもんですからね、真正面から議論しようということになって、結論は出ておりません。我々は9条じゃなくて、今の憲法裁判所や地方分権や教育の無償化が急ぐと、こういう姿勢です。これから9条は議論します。はい。
Yes, first of all, our thinking, for the time being, we want to try to revise the constitution in those areas which we think will benefit the people of Japan. And that is the reason why we have listed the three, which is making education free and devolution, and as well as setting up this constitutional court. So let me try to respond to your second question here. The reason why we are proposing the establishment of a constitutional court is because the current Supreme Court is reluctant to hand down judgments on issues which are highly political. They try to avoid judgments saying that this is not the judicial branch's issue to judge. And so they come up with very ambiguous results, answers to, or judgments in regards to those highly political issues. One example is the right of collective self-defense. There is the issue of the homes straight now, but the reason why we have had we have yet to see decisive decision judgment made by the court at this time, and the reason why we had to go through such a long process of coming up with the new security, peace and prosperity legislation is precisely because the Supreme Court does not hand down its judgment. In other countries, they do have the constitutional courts where they judge whether something is unconstitutional or not, and the decision is made right away, whereas in the current Japanese Supreme Court, this is not the case, and there's a lot of energy wasted as a result of that. So that is the reason why we're proposing such a court, or it could be established within the Supreme Court. And secondly, in regards to Article 9, our party has yet to discuss this issue within the party. But Mr. Abe is very much attached to this issue. He takes this very seriously, and Mr. Trump, meanwhile, is saying that the current U.S.-Japan security treaty is unfair. Given all these circumstances, it is necessary for us, our party, to also look into the face of this issue and discuss this. But we have yet to do that in regards to Article 9, and as I said, for the time being, we are focused on the three issues of making education free, devolution, and constitutional courts. But we would like to deliberate this within our party too.
Thank you very much, Mr. Katayama, for spending time with us.